This week's map adventure brings us right down here to the heart of downtown Reno. We're breaking out the 1861 map because right here is where Fuller's Crossing was. And Fuller's Crossing was the precursor to Lakes Crossing. And Lakes Crossing was the precursor to the mighty Reno, the biggest little city in the world. But before we talk about the biggest little city, we need to talk about the biggest little river crossing. Because right here where we're sitting is where Reno began.
This is a city of glitter and glamour, a city of neon and bright lights, of spinning wheels and dancing feet. This is Reno, the biggest little city in the world. For a few years before the town was officially founded, however, it was known as Fuller's Crossing, named for an early pioneer who kept an inn on the south side of the Truckee River, where now stands the Riverside Hotel.
Now you can't talk about the Riverside without talking about Charles Fuller, a Honey Lake rancher who came down in 1858.
Charles William Fuller, aka Bill as he liked to be called, came down from Toadsville. What? You've never heard of Toadsville? Well, if you went about an hour north,
You'd smack right into it.
Now, where was I? Oh yeah, Bill Fuller was following a team of oxen down from his family's ranch in Honey Lake Valley when he noticed a sandbar. No, not that kind. He noticed a sandbar that stretched across the Truckee River that was being used as a makeshift river crossing for people who didn't want to pay a toll. Because you see, at this point in time, thou shalt not pass the Truckee River without paying a toll. Because in 1859, there were 3 official river crossings. First, you had O'Neill's Crossing, which was a bridge built by Felix O'Neill in 1858, and this bridge sat right where Verde is today. Next up, Stout's Crossing, which was a 6-foot wide sturdy bridge and the best built of all 3 bridges. And this bridge, it was in the exact spot where the Mayberry footbridge is today. Last but not least, there was Stone and Gates Crossing, which was a ferry that had been built the previous year by John F. Stone and Charlie Gates. This very popular crossing would eventually become the mighty Glendale. All 3 bridges levied a pretty hefty toll to cross the Truckee, which caused some pioneers to seek out other ways to cross the river. Now back to young Bill Fuller and his sandbar. Recognizing a money-making opportunity, Bill did a squatter's claim for land on both sides of the Truckee. Back when there was too much unoccupied land in the West Coast, the government was just giving it away. 160 surveyed acres to be exact.
We explored both north and south and found that section after section of free government land to be had for the asking had been gobbled up ahead of us.
Right now you're thinking, free land? What's the problem? Well, you see, it had to be surveyed land. And this particular stretch of unoccupied land sat in Utah. No, you heard that right. I said Utah. Because Nevada wasn't always Nevada. And before it was Nevada, it was Utah. The far west corner of Utah, to be exact. And this sparsely populated far west corner, well, needless to say, it had a shortage of surveyors in the area. So early pioneers did what they called a squatter's claim. This was the Truckee Meadows in Fuller's day. A few handful of pioneers building bridges and squatting land.
That's the trouble with this country. It's gone to the dogs. There ain't no more opportunity for a poor man.
That's where you're wrong, Ruth Hume. There'll always be opportunity for eyes that are sharp enough to see it. And there's lots more good land, too.
Say, folks, we're in the money. We're in the money. You know, we've got a lot of...
Fuller's first year was rough. Like rough. First, he had to deal with the extremely harsh winter of 1859, which consisted of 6 weeks of frozen fog, endless amounts of snow, and the Truckee River completely freezing over. To make matters worse, he wasn't able to secure a toll franchise until the following spring. So he was forced to build a free pull and rope ferry.
Now, when we look over today, we see these pretty sound structure bridges. But that's not what it was like in 1859. He actually only had enough time to build a ferry before the very hard winter. So he took fence posts, posted them all the way across the river right here, and had a rope, and he pulled people across that river.
That is when they needed it, because that winter the Truckee River completely froze over, and pioneers could walk or forge it anywhere they wanted. Not that he had accommodation for anyone who would happen to come by.
Where we're standing right here behind us, and you see the riverside, that's where there was a large gravel mound. Now that mound was from years and years of the Truckee River flooding and all of that river gravel piling up. Using the topography to his advantage, Charles Fuller dug inside of it and made a dug-out way station that had a couple logs holding up the front, but was predominantly inside the mountain.
This early trading post was by no means a grand structure. It had a canvas roof and was built right into the side of a large gravel mound, all hastily put together before the 6 weeks of gray skies and endless snow kicked in. In his own words,
I wore a blanket tied around my waist as I had sold my only suit of clothes for seed corn at that ferry crossing.
but young Bill Fuller didn't let any of this stop his big bridge dreams.
We're on the bridge, the first bridge, the only bridge, the very world famous Virginia Street Bridge. And it's crazy to think that there's been a bridge in this spot for over 150 years since that pioneer Charles Fuller built the first ferry across the river in 1858.
As soon as the snow melted, he got to work building his empire. First on the agenda, build a bridge, followed by get a toll franchise. Bill Fuller secured himself a $3,000 bond and received a toll franchise from Carson County, Utah. The new bridge took 3 months and cost a total of $3,000 to complete. Second on Fuller's list, get people to cross said bridge, because his crossing was 4 miles in any direction from a road, any road. So what did he do? He got to work building himself a road.
Behind me, you've got the Virginia Street Bridge. And the reason it's called that is because it goes over Virginia Street. But what most people don't realize is the reason it's called Virginia Street to begin with. And that was because it was the road to Virginia City. Pretty easy in its simplicity, isn't it? Charles Fuller was granted a toll franchise in 1859 from the state of Utah, which is where we're standing in 1859. And he set out to make a new road, one to connect Honey Lake Valley all the way to Huff Acres, where it would meet up with the Hennis Pass and head on over to Virginia City. Now, this road, once complete, saved the average pioneer 15 miles. And back in the day, when you could only go 10 miles a day in a wagon party, that was a huge saving of time, which made this bridge and this crossing pretty popular in the 1860s, especially after that old thing we like to call silver was discovered.
Let's see, where was I? Franchise, check. Bridge, check. Road, check. The only thing left was to build a tavern / store / hotel / way station / whatever anybody else needed on their way to Virginia City. And by the time 1861 rolled around, Fuller's Crossing had several buildings, a store that was stocked with goods from his family's Honey Lake farm, a ramshackle tavern with cheap whiskey, and a small frame hotel. Oh, and a bridge. Of course, we can't forget a bridge. And in 1861, Fuller's Crossing had officially made the map.
It started showing up on the maps as Fuller's Crossing about 1861, which is funny because it ended up going off the maps as Fuller's Crossing about 1861.
Things were beginning to look up for young Bill Fuller. But just as things started to turn around, the Great Flood of 1862 happened. And this flood was massive. To this day, it's still considered the greatest natural disaster to ever hit the states of California, Oregon, and Nevada. All 4 bridges were washed out. When it was all said and done, the damage was massive. Unfortunately for Bill, the hits just kept coming. As now, this was 1862, and the new territory of Nevada had been formed, and that old Utah was out. So any toll franchise that was granted was null and void. This left Bill with no funds to rebuild his bridge.
After the flood of 1862, Charles Fuller decided that it was a little bit too much for him, and he decided to pack up shop. So he sold his bridge, toll franchise, and way station to Myron Lake.
1 year prior to this, the Fuller family had fallen upon hard times and were forced to sell part of their Honey Lake ranch to a gentleman named Myron Lake. Myron Lake was a shrewd businessman who never passed up the opportunity to get rich on someone's misfortune. He came down and he made Bill Fuller a deal he couldn't refuse. He would give him back his family's farm in exchange for all of his holdings. Penniless and out of options, Bill Fuller had no choice but to accept the deal. And just like that, Fuller's Crossing became Lake's Crossing.
Cause when I'm broke, no one helps me out but my last dollar.
Walking with Vance. Hey! He's filming me today.
Yes.
We walk around downtown Reno, and I'm providing him a little bit of muscle in case any people try to give him any shit.
I also brought money to pay them off and for my ransom just in case.
Yes, because we're really worried that he's going to get ransomed.
Yeah.
At least he's worried that he's going to get ransomed.
What else am I going to do with all this money? Right? Give it
You
to
could
poor
put it in the
people?
bank. You could give it to the American Hope Foundation.